Germany's avoidance of diesel engines in their tanks, a reflection of technological progress, has baffled historians and analysts, sparking investigations. The use of tanks in warfare marked an era of revolution in military strategy, with powerful metal beasts traversing terrains and altering the course of conflicts. In the early 20th century, the emergence of these mechanical giants forced nations to break free from the trench warfare that defined World War I. However, the engines powering these vehicles differed significantly, leading to decades-long debates surrounding armored warfare. Initially, tanks were powered by any available engine, often borrowed from agricultural or industrial machinery. The British Mark I, the world's first combat tank, utilized a gasoline engine, highlighting a focus on availability rather than suitability. Early tank designs saw the widespread adoption of gasoline engines, driven by their prevalence and existing production infrastructure, making them the norm. However, this choice left tanks vulnerable to fire, a risk amplified by the era's armor-piercing ammunition. Despite this, their ease of starting in cold conditions and superior power-to-weight ratio made gasoline engines the initial preference. As tank technology evolved, nations experimented with different engine types to enhance performance and safety. The Soviet Union, acknowledging the risks of gasoline engines, embraced diesel engines in their tanks. Developed by Rudolf Diesel, the diesel engine offered several advantages over its gasoline counterpart: a lower likelihood of catching fire and improved fuel efficiency, extending operational range. Introduced in 1940, the Soviet T-34 showcased the benefits of the diesel engine with its reliability, fuel efficiency, and reduced fire risk. This stood in stark contrast to Germany's continued preference for gasoline engines. Germany's decision against adopting diesel engines was multifaceted. The German military-industrial complex possessed extensive experience and infrastructure in gasoline engine production. Transitioning to diesel engines presented a logistical challenge beyond technological hurdles, requiring significant changes in production, supply chains, and maintenance training. German engineers aiming to maximize their tanks' performance favored gasoline engines for their rapid acceleration and high power output. This aligned with their strategic approach, known as blitzkrieg, relying on speed and surprise. This strategy sought to overwhelm the enemy with swift and unexpected attacks, capitalizing on the high-performance capabilities of gasoline engines. Tactical strategy deeply influenced German tank design philosophy, where the long-term benefits of diesel engines were overlooked in favor of the immediate gains offered by gasoline engines. On the international stage, the Soviet Union's experiences with diesel-powered tanks were closely observed by other powers. The United States, Britain, and other allied nations recognized the superiority of diesel engines in balancing safety, efficiency, and performance, leading them to integrate these engines into their armored vehicles. However, this transition was not immediate or universal, with many Allied tanks continuing to use gasoline engines until the war's end. The T-34's emergence is considered a revolution in armored warfare. Introduced in 1940, it offered an unprecedented combination of armor, firepower, and mobility for its time. At the heart of its design lay the Soviet Union's decision to utilize a diesel engine. This choice not only distinguished the T-34 from its contemporaries, but also equipped it with capabilities that surprised and outmaneuvered German strategists and tank crews. The lower volatility of diesel fuel reduced the risk of fuel tanks igniting from enemy fire, making the T-34 particularly resilient against German tank firepower. Moreover, diesel engines offered superior fuel efficiency compared to gasoline engines. This allowed Soviet tanks to conduct prolonged operations across the vast Eastern Front, even in areas with stretched supply lines. It provided Soviet forces with a strategic mobility advantage, enabling the Red Army to penetrate deep into enemy territory and execute successful encirclement maneuvers. The Soviet Union's choice of diesel engines reflected broader logistical and strategic considerations. Diesel fuel, readily available from abundant Soviet oil resources, offered a logistical advantage over gasoline, which was scarcer and required for both military and civilian purposes. This logistical advantage, combined with the diesel engine's durability in harsh conditions and reduced maintenance requirements, made the T-34 an ideal choice for the challenging conditions of the Eastern Front. However, the T-34's diesel engine was not without its challenges. It experienced reliability issues stemming from the engine and drivetrain. While Soviet industry initially struggled with quality control, these issues were effectively addressed through design improvements and upgrades as the war progressed. German strategists were initially taken aback by the T-34, with its sloped armor, superior firepower, and mobility. German Panzer III and IV tanks, powered by gasoline engines, were outmatched in terms of armor and armament. The T-34's emergence prompted a rapid reassessment of German tank designs, leading to the development of the Panther and Tiger tanks. However, these new designs, despite some vulnerabilities, continued to utilize gasoline engines. The adherence to gasoline engines in German tanks stemmed from various factors, including existing production capacities and the power output and acceleration advantages offered by gasoline engines. However, the T-34's impact extended beyond the tactical engagements of World War II, profoundly influencing post-war tank design and doctrines. The advantages of diesel engines became increasingly recognized, leading to the widespread adoption of diesel power in most main battle tanks. These developments represented a strategic and technological shift that shaped the future of tank warfare. Among the tanks developed during the Cold War, this tank, with its diesel engine, offered a new design philosophy that shaped the future of armored warfare, emphasizing a balanced approach between mobility, protection, and firepower. The T-34 inspired subsequent tank designs and played a pivotal role in the evolution of modern armored fighting vehicles. Invented by Diesel in 1897, this engine significantly improved the efficiency of internal combustion engines, offering advantages such as fuel economy and better resistance to explosions. These advantages made the use of the diesel engine attractive, especially in the context of armored warfare. However, Germany's reluctance to widely adopt this superior technology in its tanks during World War II remains a subject of curiosity among historians and military analysts. The reasons behind Germany's avoidance of diesel engines are multifaceted. At the outset of the war, the German military-industrial complex had already made substantial investments in gasoline engine technology. Infrastructure, supply chains, and technical expertise were centered around gasoline engines, making the transition to diesel engines a major logistical challenge. Furthermore, Germany's blitzkrieg strategy seemed more compatible with the speed, maneuverability, and shock effect offered by gasoline engines. In this context, German tank designers chose to leverage their existing technological infrastructure and production capacities to build a force focused on swift and decisive victories. This was a choice made in light of prevailing conditions and strategic objectives, despite the potential long-range and survivability advantages that diesel engines could provide. This situation illustrates how German engineering pride and Rudolf Diesel's legacy clashed with wartime necessities and strategic decisions. These choices in German tank design and strategy had profound implications for the outcome of World War II and the subsequent development of armored fighting vehicles. The widespread commercial adoption of diesel engine technology was still in its early stages at the start of World War II, despite Rudolf Diesel's pioneering work. These engines were favored in certain sectors, particularly maritime and industrial applications, due to their fuel efficiency and safety advantages. However, adapting this technology to military applications requiring high speed and performance presented significant challenges under the constraints of a wartime economy. Overcoming these challenges became either undesirable or unattainable for German engineers. The psychological dimensions of this situation cannot be overlooked. The deep-rooted connection between German engineering pride and technological innovation and superiority had led to complacency. Early successes with Panzer gasoline-powered tanks reinforced the belief in the adequacy of existing designs. Despite recognizing the potential benefits of the diesel engine, this confidence resulted in a reluctance to adapt to technological changes. Germany's failure to capitalize on diesel engine technology developed by a German is considered ironic. The successes of the Soviet Union's diesel-powered T-34 tanks exposed the strategic and tactical limitations of the Wehrmacht's reliance on gasoline engines. The T-34's superior range, reliability, and safety stood in stark contrast to German tank models, highlighting Germany's missed opportunity to turn its own technological innovation into a strategic advantage. Fuel supply was a critical factor shaping strategic decisions in World War II, particularly the choice of engine type for armored vehicles. Germany's war machine was heavily reliant on the country's scarce oil resources. In contrast, Allied powers like the United States and the Soviet Union possessed vast domestic oil reserves. Germany had to rely on imports and synthetic fuel production to meet its energy needs. This dependence on imported oil was a vulnerability that the Allies exploited by targeting supply lines and production facilities. Even resource-rich territories under German occupation presented logistical challenges due to sabotage, resistance movements, and vast distances. In this context, Germany's decision to keep its tanks running on gasoline was not merely a technical or tactical preference, but also a logistical necessity. While gasoline engines were less efficient than diesel, the German military could not afford to deviate from its existing supply chains. Switching to diesel, despite all its advantages, would have required major logistical changes, such as altering fuel supply lines, retraining mechanics, and converting storage and transportation facilities. The preference for gasoline engines was also shaped by the nature of German warfare. Blitzkrieg tactics demanded engines capable of high performance and rapid acceleration. Under these circumstances, gasoline engines were seen as more suitable for meeting these needs, despite the fuel efficiency and lower fire susceptibility advantages offered by diesel engines. However, this choice came at a cost, limiting the operational range of the German army due to the volatility and high consumption rates of gasoline. As the war dragged on and front lines expanded, these limitations became increasingly apparent. Allied bombing effectively targeted the German synthetic fuel industry. By 1944, the production of synthetic fuels had significantly diminished. This not only hampered operational capabilities, but also highlighted the strategic blunder of relying on gasoline-powered armored forces. Logistical challenges were further compounded by the German command's underestimation of the war's duration and the economic blockade imposed by the Allies. The blockade severely restricted Germany's access to its primary oil sources, disrupting calculations that the war would be a short conflict. This assumption left the army unprepared for a prolonged war that would test its logistical sustainability. The inherent fuel efficiency of diesel engines offered a significant operational advantage in vast theaters like the Eastern Front. The reliability of a tank's engine was paramount in the grueling conditions of warfare. While powerful, gasoline engines were prone to wear and tear, requiring meticulous maintenance. The volatile nature of gasoline also increased the risk of fire in tank engagements, making fuel fires a common and deadly hazard. In contrast, diesel engines with their robust construction and less volatile fuel were generally more reliable and safer in combat conditions. Notably, the T-34's diesel engine demonstrated remarkable resilience in the harsh Russian winter and the rigors of combat. This reliability significantly reduced maintenance and repair logistics, allowing Soviet armored units to maintain operational readiness more consistently than their German counterparts. The suitability of gasoline and diesel engines in tank warfare cannot be assessed in isolation from broader strategic and tactical doctrines. German tanks, equipped with gasoline engines, were designed for swift and decisive victories. The Blitzkrieg strategy demanded tanks capable of rapidly breaking through enemy defenses, and the high-speed capabilities of gasoline engines were well suited for this task. However, as the war progressed and the tactical situation evolved, the limitations of this approach became increasingly apparent. Under prolonged conflicts and fuel shortages, the advantages of diesel engines came to the fore. While the diesel-powered tanks of the Soviet Union might not have matched the initial speed and agility of their German counterparts, they brought endurance and long-range operational capabilities to the battlefield. These tanks, capable of operating for extended periods without refueling, offered a critical advantage in the war of attrition. With a lower risk of catching fire, diesel tanks proved more resilient, allowing the Soviet Union to absorb and eventually overcome the German onslaught.